Morning, everybody. Oliver Joyce from Whiskey Barrel Studios here, and welcome to Thursday. And firstly, I've got to apologise if my microphone sounds a bit tinny. Some kind of gremlins have got into it, and it just sounds a little bit off today. But I'll work on those settings later. Speaking of working, work continues on the Great Swords and Sandals 6. We are now in end of April, almost May. Can you believe it? And it still feels like I'm just getting started in the game. If you look closely at that thumbnail behind you, you'll see a sneak preview of what the gladiators may look like. If you really squint your eyes together, you can kind of get a sense of the dimensions of them and a bit of the background. And what you can also see there is a radial menu. That's about as much as I'm going to give away right now. It's not much, is it? But right now I'm working, of course, on the combat system of the game. And that is by far the most important part of the game because it represents swords and sandals. It's everything in swords and sandals is all about combat, isn't it? And so once again we go back to the forge to rebuild the combat engine for I don't know how many times I've done it, but it's a lot. And because I'm using a new engine now in Godot, it gives me the opportunity to just throw out all that old code I was using, all the old ActionScript code from the Air and Flash days, and just start again, which means none of the old bugs. And it also means all new bugs. Yay! No, look, I am confident this game is going to be more robust than any of the other ones before. And I've said that before, but I believe it this time. So, where are we right now? We have the battle caravan working. We have the day and night light system mostly working. And we don't have a weather system yet, but that will come later. Got an overland map you can scroll around. You can't go anywhere on the map because no locations exist, but that works. The shops all work, and the combat system is beginning. And what I've done in the combat system so far is I've got a little radio menu, those little round buttons that come out. I'm experimenting with how many buttons to have there. If you look closely on the little thumbnail here, you'll see that it has 12 little buttons on there, but that may be as few as 8. It may be more. I'm just going to just play around with it, but it's quite easy for me to tweak that. And beneath that, you'll also see an action bar that will have, your special potions and things you can use. Probably. Or I may have like a little, in Swords and Sandals 2 Redux, where I have a little backpack icon and it will switch the icons to, what your equipment is or your special skills and so on. I'll be playing around with that in the coming weeks, but to get that working, I, of course, need to have all the skills built. And to do that, I've actually got a Google spreadsheet that exports as a JSON file. And it means I can put in all my skill names, all their sort of descriptions, their, how much essence is used, does it affect the physical body, does it affect is it fire damage, all that kind of thing. I'm still plotting that out, but it's quite cool. It means I can edit things online, and even on my phone, I can go into Google Sheets on the phone and get that done. And it also means I can just press export and it appears in the game. Just a smarter way of doing things. And I've done the same thing for, of course, the inventory items in the game. All the swords and shields and everything are in a spreadsheet, which means I can tweak them later and even give that spreadsheet to other trusted people to sort of tweak and say, hey, this, Ajantian helmet is a bit too expensive, or make that crystal falchion a bit cheaper, or whatever it is. But I think that's a nice, mature development sign for me. And, it's taken me a long time to get a bit more mature in my game dev. And even now, I'm definitely, by my own admission, not the most competent programmer in the world. I'm a much more creative person than I am a programmer, and I'm sure, there's a lot of people out there, you do these things so you want to, but technically you may not be the most adept at it. But, that doesn't matter. As long as the end result is fun. Nobody often cares about the underlying code as long as the game works. We have parallax scrolling in the backgrounds and the foregrounds, which means in front of the gladiators, bushes will go by at sort of twice the speed. Then the gladiators are on the middle layer, and there's a layer behind them that scrolls slower. And we've never really had that in Swords and Sandals before. We had a very, very basic sort of left and right scrolling, but we never had the really nice parallax scrolling. I think Swords and Sandals Medieval had a very, very basic level of parallax, but this is one level deeper, and it's quite nice. And so far, and this may change, but the level boundaries are quite generous. You can walk quite far to the left and quite far to the right before you reach a boundary, which just means more room for ranged combat and more room for leaping and jumping around. I toyed with the idea of having a split screen. So when your gladiator moved this way and the other gladiator moved that way and you were too far away from each other, the screen would split up. And I did a little prototype of that, but it just didn't work very well. It got quite confusing, and right now I've scrapped it, and I'm making it so if you're too far away from the gladiator, it'll zoom out to a certain point, but then it'll just show you a little arrow with the gladiator's face and saying something like 50 meters away or whatever. And then when you shoot an arrow or a fireball, the camera will track that fireball and go to where the enemy gladiator is. There's a lot of work to be done on this just to make it as smooth and playable as possible. But I really like the camera system so far, and Godot has a pretty cool inbuilt camera that you can use, and the zoom is nice and everything. So I'm really happy with that. And the characters I've been experimenting with. If you remember from the previous video, I had gone away from, I was using Spriter, which is an animation system. I'd gone away from it to the internal Godot skeletal animation system. Didn't like it that much, so went back to Spriter, then found Spriter just has too many problems, too many incompatibilities with Godot. It works, but just not well and not consistently. You can't light your gladiators properly in it either. So, one arm, part of the arm might be really lit up, and then the other part might be dark and so on, just because they're all in different layers. And so the lighting mucks up. So once again, I've gone back to Godot's internal skeletal animation system and playing around with it a bit more. I'm actually, I'm comfortable with it for now. I think it will probably be fit for purpose. So in the coming weeks, I'll start animating those little gladiators, do some walk cycles, some attacks and rests and that kind of thing, and see where we go. Once I've got a basic combat system up and running, attack and defense and, some damage splats and all that kind of thing, I may have enough for a teaser trailer. And I'm hoping probably by, I can't say exactly, but by the end of June to get a teaser trailer up and a Steam page up so we can get some inspiration, wrong word, so I can get interest in the game, and of course wish lists, which, help the game get more visibility on Steam. So that's where we're at right now. The plan for the rest of the week is actually to import more equipment and weapons and features for the gladiators. Bakimi, the artist, has done some really nice new equipment. We're up to the Ajantian armor set, I think, which is the blue one. I've been going through and getting all the Swords and Sandals 2 armor sets commissioned. Then I'm going to go through and get a select bunch of armor sets from Swords and Sandals 3. Probably not all of them, but a bunch of them. Put them in the game, and then I want to add some other new armor sets as well. More specialty armor sets, things that are, lighter and faster, maybe even like a ninja suit or, some special space armor and that kind of thing. There is an undead character in the game now, walking around and everything. That's really cool. Little glowing eyes and stuff like that. Right now, Bakimi is working on the automatons, who, of course, are for the first time ever playable in the game. And they're going to be quite cool. They're, of course, big robotic creatures. They will have some limitations to them, which I'm still working out. Toying with the idea that perhaps, they don't have stamina, but they also may not be able to wear armor or something. There'll be something unique about them. And I want to do that for a few of the different races and characters, just to make them a bit more mechanically unique and playable. But we're going to go through and do that all later down the track, because it's the kind of thing that isn't crucial to the game at this stage. Right now, it's very important to just get a bare bones version of the game up and running. So once I've got the very, very basics of the combat going, I'm going to start working on the expanded combat, which is, multiple turns in a row. So multiple actions per turn, which I've talked about before. But, a fast gladiator might be able to do move forward, punch, defend, and then and the enemy, of course, will only be able to defend if he's a big heavy knight. And the idea is that this sort of turns will play out sort of at the same time. So you do your actions, they do their actions, the computer will choose theirs, and then it plays out. Don't know how it's going to work, and there's going to be priorities given to sort of like, walk takes precedence over sword swinging, or if you both walk forward, you bump into each other, but then if you do a push, or if he walks backward and you push, he walks backward first, then you try your push and it doesn't work. I'm going to play around with that because that's a huge thing. And if it doesn't work, I'll scrap it. You know, it's very important to get the combat right. And there's been some awesome ideas, of course, in the Discord channel, which I'm, you know, monitoring. I'm not talking about that, talking too much in there at the moment, but I'm certainly noting those ideas and seeing what will work and what may not work. I have to be careful to sort of, you know, rein in some of the more crazy ideas of my own and, of course, from other people, just because, at least for the first version of the game, the early access build, if I put too many crazy things in there, A, the game will never get finished, and B, it might be unrecognizable from previous Swords and Sandals games, and, you know, we don't want that. We want this to feel very much like a classic Swords and Sandals game, and so far I'm confident of that, but there's a long way to go, and it's a fun process, but it's also pretty challenging and at times overwhelming, just because there's a lot to do, and you know, there's a lot of expectation from myself and, you know, from the wider community, but we all want this to be the best Swords and Sandals we can make it. And so thank you, of course, for all your contributions and comments in YouTube and Discord and everything, and the emails. I'll wrap the video up, and of course, if you like these videos, subscribe. Look, I finally got the damn it, and then I stuffed up that bit. Subscribe. There it is. One day I'll get that all right. Yeah, you know, thanks for being part of the YouTube channel. We're slowly gaining in popularity, and, you know, maybe in 10 years we'll have millions and we'll be huge. All right, my friends, that's it for the week. I'm sorry I don't have more to show you visually, but I hope that tiny little teaser has whet your appetite. Have a brilliant weekend. It's a cool, clear autumn day right now, and it's beautiful weather. And it's probably spring over there in Europe, and you know, for those in South America, also autumn. And hola to you all. Until next time, my friends. Bye for now.